And we are happy to be joined on the Milford Informer this week by the head coach for Milford Legion Baseball Post 59, Steve DiVitto, also head coach of the Scarlet Hawks softball team. So it's certainly been a busy last few months for you in terms of your teams. What I want to do is kind of go through this thing from the beginning, go back to first forming the team at the beginning of the season, and then move forward from there. Because really, looking back to last year, going into this season, I'm sure for you personally, you had a lot of attention from the community, from the people who surround the team, and given just how far this team went last year, as you started to put things together for this season, I'm sure there had to have been sort of a level of pressure put on you as a coach to put a team together that could put a worthy encore onto what you were able to do last season.
Well, I think every year is different. You know that. You've been around this for a while. And I think the most important thing we can do as a coaching staff, not just myself, it's a whole staff. We need to evaluate talent every year. And we need to evaluate guys not only who are, prospective players for this coming year, but down the road, guys that were on the team last year, what work did they put in the off season. We have to take everything into consideration, and last year was last year, this year was this year, and that's how we approach it every year. We go out and scout in the spring, on top of coaching softball. I go and scout with Brendan and Coach Matos and Coach Wynn, Coach Walsh, Coach Innes. We're all out scouting teams in the area. Whether or not guys know it, that's a different story. But we are out scouting. We're taking a look at guys, how they're playing, and we have to evaluate all that. And like I said, we're not out to make friends. We're out to put the best possible 18 on the field that will represent our town and surrounding towns and give us the best possibility to be successful, and also put the players in the best possible position to be successful as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. Preseason meetings, we talk about guys that, could come back. What do we need to fill position-wise? And, we're a team that habitually looks to, not just get to the state tournament, but to win the state tournament. And we try to form our roster around that exact premise. And when you get to this state tournament, we know how taxing it can be on arms and positions and what it is that you need, and we try and fill that. And we think every year, you can never have enough pitching, and it's showing that right now in the state tournament. Other teams that are playing, you get thin real quick. So, I think depth is it's a real important issue for us. And like I said, we a lot of work, a lot of hard work goes into it, not just by myself, but the coaching staff and other people behind the scenes as well that allow this organization to tick and has been so successful for a long time.
And I know you have a saying that you use often, that Milford is a team that doesn't retool, you reload. And looking at how you had to put this team together this year, I'm sure that philosophy was maybe put to the test a little bit more so this year than certainly in the last couple of years, looking at the players that you lost from that regional finalist team, with really the three big workhorses in your starting rotation, your lockdown closer out of your bullpen, and even your 3-4 hitters in the lineup, all players that you knew were not coming back to this year's team. So was that a little bit of an extra challenge for you and the rest of the coaching staff this year, knowing that either from the pool of players that you knew you had returning or from the players that you were scouting out as prospective new players, that there were going to be a lot of real key roles from a leadership standpoint, from an on-field standpoint, that you needed to fill for the 2015 team?
Well, yeah, we knew inexperience was going to be something that we were going to have to fight with all year. We had a lot of young guys, a lot of guys who were first-year players on the team, but we also knew we had some guys coming back that have had a lot of state tournament experience that have been on this team, not just from last year's team, but years before that. Andrew McMillan, Matt DeCina were two guys that have played for 3 years, and 4, but 3 years with 3 straight state tournament teams. And we thought that was going to play a big role. Those guys were going to need to be focal points in a leadership role, that they've experienced heavy duty type pressure situations that some of these other guys, quite frankly, haven't. It's nothing against them; they just haven't had that experience. But that, of course, that goes into play. But the one thing that we don't focus on is it's not as much who have you lost. It's more of who's going to come in and fill those roles. And would you love to have Dan Mantoni and Dan Avery, like you just talked about, David Sampson, all those guys? Of course. I mean, those are talents that are quite rare. And it's not just talents. Their leadership was tremendous. And we had guys this year that filled those roles quite nicely. They did a great job. And every year, guys need to step up, fill those roles. And, we try and take the pressure off them as much as humanly possible. Now, I say that. I'm sure sometimes they may not feel that way, but we try as a coaching staff to allow them to feel comfortable and to just let their play do the talking. And, I think for the most part, our guys did a great job this year.
And certainly, when all was said and done, you were a playoff team again. You had a solid regular season with those 14 wins in the regular season. But you look back to how things got started. It was the second year in a row where you just had that period of time through that first 7-8 game stretch where it was a little bit rough. You started out 0-3. It was just 2 wins over those first 8 games. It was a similar story last year too with the 7-7 start. Has there been anything as a coaching staff you guys have been able to put your finger on as to why the team has kind of struggled to get to that consistent point through those early games?
Yeah, we got to stop having our high school teams be so successful. No, but listen, I think this year a little bit different from last year. Last year through 8 games we were able to be, I believe we were 4-4. Mm-hmm. This year we were 2-6, a much different record, and I think we dug ourselves quite a hole this year. Not for lack of effort, but we lost a couple tight games, couple close games there, and it is what it is. But our kids fought, and we continued to tell them just keep battling. Don't worry about what your record says. Just win that inning. And I'm sure I said this to you enough. We were blue in the face in coaches' corners where it's got to be one inning at a time. It's one pitch at a time, and we continued to fight. And after that first 8 game stretch, we finished off the regular season. I believe it was 12-4, something like that. And that was a great run to allow us to get into the postseason. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about as a coaching staff when we had an end of the year meeting, which is we need to have a little bit more of a push in those first couple games to not get behind the 8 ball, not dig ourselves such a hole, and to get off to a better start.
And one of the interesting things looking over the regular season and even into the playoffs, one of the things that I heard a lot from people who follow the team closely, looking at how this roster was assembled, everyone looked at that offense and said, this is a team that's going to hit. They're going to hit all season, and that's going to be their strong point. And where the skepticism came in was with the pitching staff. And looking at how the season ultimately played out, that pitching staff, with the one exception maybe of the Wachusett Mercy Rule game, that pitching staff kept you in every game. I want to say the run differentials in the game that you lost were really right around 3 or 4 runs was the biggest margin of victory for an opponent. So were you even surprised at how well that pitching staff was able to gel and continue to get better as the season went on?
Yeah, I think those roles were reversed, right? I think we talked about this earlier in the year. We felt the same thing, that our bats were going to be our strong point. Last year's team, it was our pitching that really carried us, and I guess that theme continued this year. Our guys on our pitching staff, not just our starters, but our relievers as well, allowed us to stay in games and allowed our offense to have opportunities to knock runners in. And I think early on in the year, that was one of our big faults. We did not drive guys in. With runners in scoring position, our average was, for lack of a better term, putrid to start the year. It wasn't very good, but it improved. And that's the one thing that we continue to let the guys know. Just keep at it. Keep hitting. It's going to come. And, our pitching staff, was I surprised? Maybe a little. We thought we had a great pitching staff. We thought that they were underestimated because of how strong our hitters looked, on paper. But that's all it was. It was paper. And you got to go and play the games. And our pitchers were phenomenal. I really thought they were great. Composed. Bulldog mentalities. Every guy that stepped out there on the mound did a really good job for us this year, and that's why we were able to have that run, that 12-4 run, the end of the year, because of our pitching staff and because those guys were able to hold opponents to so few opportunities, and our guys were given more opportunities because of that to hit the ball.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Coette. Make sure you check out full episodes of the Milford Informer on Milford TV. New episodes air every Friday night at 7:30 p.m. and then re-air frequently over the course of the weekend. Milford TV can be found on Comcast Channel 8 and Verizon Channel 38. And if you live in the Milford area and have an idea for a news story, you can contact us at news@milfordtv.net.